Steel tip plow.
Did you say steel toed?
Yeah.
I like the steel toed plow. The steel toe plow, yes. The steel tip plow. What did Morris invent?
A telegraph.
Telegraph and
Morse code.
yeah, the code that made it usable. And what industry that I say it would lead to all sorts of innovation and changes in society. So not only business, but also innovation, but also the way whole towns would be structured. Yeah, trains. Did I mention where cities are going to be on that? I don't know if I forgot. I think I forgot to mention this on Friday to you guys. Every 15 miles, trains needed needed more water. Every 30 miles, they needed fuel. Did I say that yesterday, Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, I did?
Just like a little like ferry.
Yeah, so that's why you get this weird thing where you have these towns that don't make any sense. There's a magpie. And don't mess with magpie. Two magpie, they're coming again. Yeah, one day there was like 15 magpie out there looking at me. So let's go ahead and get to what happened.
Something must have been here tomorrow.
Excuse me, let me tie my shoes. So we got to this? Did we get to this?
Yeah.
And universal, and I have asterisks here because not one thing you have to know about universal. I think the bell's right ready to ring, so I wanted to make sure I got this in. The thing about universal education is this: every locality has their own education system. They set up the system. That's what we call school districts today. And there are hundreds of thousands of school districts in the country, and everyone has a different view of what universal really means. And especially back then, this might only mean white boys. It could be only white children. It could be all children. It really depends on the locality as it does today. This district is significantly different than other districts in Montana, let alone the rest of the United States. There are a few states, well, the biggies, Texas, where Texas, like the state, does the entire school district for every city. But most of them are like Montana. We're all individual and unique. So that means every state is different, and some are more inclusive, some are less. Today, it usually deals with money. Wealthier districts have more classes, more offerings, just more. Pay teachers better, have better schools. And in Montana, we don't have a big issue with that just because we're a relatively poor state. But just compare this school to smaller schools. And they can't even hire teachers in most places. So it's really tough for them. And we see that in other places. And not only that, we get to this. We did?
Yes.
Citizenship. And the thing is, with citizenship, you got to look beyond yourself. We're workers. And this is something I was just thinking about this morning. I had to say to the third period, so still a little behind. I was talking about this. Common Core, one of the big selling points is that they would teach everyone to have good skills, aka become good workers. And that was the whole selling point of it. They didn't even have a system set up. It was like, we'll make sure everyone learns skills. And we were at a meeting for this. And we were told, all of us teachers, and those who weren't completely zoned out caught this, they said that, well, in fact, somebody who was a little bit ornery asked, so you're saying that this, we don't care if the students know anything, just as long as they have skills? And we were told, yes. You don't have to know anything, just have skills. AKA, don't question things, just become good workers. Yes?
Was citizenship and workers like that the U.S. is more literate and that like they make good workers? Is that what happened?
Well, that was part of it, but also citizenship means being good citizens in a republic. Being good citizens who question the government and make good, rational decisions about the country. But the main thing about being a citizen, you have to think beyond yourself. It's more than just you. If you want to be a good citizen of the country, you want the entire country to prosper. Well, being just a good worker, that's not really being questioned. And that is really kind of, rather that's for yourself, or more importantly, for your employer. So they get a nice, unquestioning worker. And so, I showed you this, didn't I? So let's move on to number 9, the biggie. The new economic system. Where were you? Excused. Capitalism. And capitalism, okay, Adam Smith did not create capitalism, but his book about how markets function would have great impact. Now, you don't need to write down the whole title of the book. As you can see, titles of books in the 18th century had huge names. So, the third moral sentiment in inquiry into the Wealth of Nations. That's what everybody calls his book, The Wealth of Nations. And in it, he laid out something that was a mystery to most people. How do markets function? How are prices set in the market? Now, I don't mean a market, I'm not just thinking like going out to the store and buying something. I don't mean that by market. I mean a market in context of all the people who come into a market to sell or to buy products of one particular product. Like, for example, it will come in to buy water. You're the people who sell it and the people who buy it. I won't throw it. I'll let you buy it back. That's how my market functions. But that's how people buy and sell, where the price is set. How come some people make it in the market? How come some people don't? How come some people innovate? How come some people don't? He would create, or in fact, a lot of people call him the father of, and get this down, economics. This is before the term economics was used. And economics is not business. People think economics, well, that's how not to run a business. It's not even close to how to run a business. In reality, it's not even a very good skill to learn for business. They actually are different things, even though a knowledge of economics helps. We don't have an economics class, or at least one that's being taught. There was an AP economics class that was taught a couple of years ago, but that was the only year ever there's been enough people taking it. And part of the problem is there's only a few teachers who can teach it. And I have too many other classes. For example, I can't. And there's not very many. And that's just the only issue, we don't teach it. You might get a little bit of this in business, but economics, and do get this now, economics are how societies, how people deal with, this is the word, scarcity. That's economics, how people deal with scarcity. And you notice that's a heck of a lot more than business. Scarcity, I'm talking about scarce goods. And scarce goods can be anything that you need to survive. And so that literally could be water, or heat, or clothing, or heat, or that's a heat again. Okay, maybe we're cold. And shelter, etc. These scarce objects, so how people accumulate them, how they distribute them, aka potentially stores or other ways, how people buy it, the monetary system created, that is economics. So it's a heck of a lot more than just running a business. So Adam Smith, who actually took his ideas from two Arab philosophers from the 14th century, Jefferson did the same thing. He wrote this book in, what year did the United States become a country? Declare independence? Say it again. 1776. He wrote The Wealth of Nations. 1776. Remember the United States became a country on July 4th, 1776? Well, July 2nd, 1776. Adam Smith is always in my class, and since he is a Scot, he perpetually looks north. As we all know, all Scots always look north. Okay. With that, we're coming up to his concept of what a market was. And what he wrote about in the free market is he's talking about something that has never existed. A market where people can buy and sell freely at will. So anybody could start a business and sell, and anybody could come in and buy. That has never happened before, and has never happened since. Thus, it is in quotes. He's talking about this as an idealized system. In fact, he was angry about the monopolies created by government. Do you remember the 1773 Tea Act? That gave a monopoly to what company? Yeah, the East India Company. And he actually mentions that in the book. It's a good book. I'm not saying you want to go home and read about 18th century economics, but it was one of those I'd read for a class, and to be honest, I was very reluctant. It was really interesting. The problem is, 18th century prose, wow, was it hard to read. I remember there were whole pages that's just one sentence. It's just weird to read. It's just kind of, God, it's just weird for the way we read that now. But it's really interesting. Good author. They would have just called him a philosopher. So he's setting up an idealized system. Basically what he's saying is, okay, we're never going to quite achieve this. but what's the best way to create the most efficient system to create the most wealth and prosperity for, and this is important, for all people. He didn't want it just for a few, even though to our conversation, we're getting to hear about business, how business is created. And this is why it relates to the Industrial Revolution. So this is still pre-capitalism. So first off, in the marketplace, it is all a series of competition. Competition. People entering the marketplace to buy and sell goods. Heck, when we go to the store, you might not think of it this way, but in reality, when we go to buy something, we are all competing for that product. And if we all compete at the same time, what would happen to the price of that? If we all want the one product, it goes up. Same thing with selling goods. If a bunch of people are trying to sell a product, what happens to the price? It goes down. So they all try to undercut each other. What happens if one person is selling a product that people want? It can go up. I mean, those are issues that we get with competition. And what he said is everybody operates in their own self-interest. In competition, if we all operate for what's going to be best for us, that will be the best watchdog. We will make sure we're not cheated. So when we go into the store, we will always pick the product that will be the best, the product that will be the least dangerous, will be the safest. You can think of any number of things. Same thing with people selling goods. They'll operate in their self-interest. They're not going to try to put out a product that's purposely bad because then people won't buy it. That sort of thing. By the way, that should tell you right now we've never had a free market. Because does that happen? If people are always operating in their own best self-interest, that means that people are always rational. Have you been out there? Most people are what we call irrational. All the time. And there's something else. When you go to the store, so when you go in and buy your water, how do we know it's clean? How do we know it's good? Do you know?
Trust them.
You trust them. I trust you. So do you really know? For that matter, think about anything you buy or do. That's why it's always fun to look at the ingredients on food. Isn't that fun? In fact, I was thinking about that when I was getting on a plane last week. How do we know this plane is safe? Seriously, how do we know? Huh? We're told it is. Yeah.
Other flights.
Other flights either make it. Let's hope so. In fact, I was getting on a 737. 737 MAX have been grounded because two of them crashed and killed 400 people because Boeing didn't bother to tell them how unsafe the planes were. By the way, next year those planes are coming back. Yes. I'm not making this up. How do you know it's safe? Or for that matter, how do you know the pilot's not drunk? These are real things. I'm not trying to scare you, okay? But, and think about driving in a car, all these issues, we don't know because there's not transparency. So right there should tell you we never are really sure. But let's get back. We're imagining we know, which frankly we don't. So next, the issue is this. That means there is risk. Maybe you will buy a product that's bad. Or let's say you start a business selling water, right? You go to the business. I start a business selling water. And so I invest all this money to go pick water from the water tree and have them carry it and then take it to the water factories. And then we go through the process and I make this big investment. What happens if I go out of business? I have a lot of extra water, and I lost everything. I lost it. That's risk. By the way, where did I get the money to buy this? So I have to borrow. That means I have debt overhanging. Risk is everywhere. If you start a business, the risk is immense because you might lose everything. And if you're alone and you borrow money and you don't pay it back, that will follow you for the rest of your life. The risk is huge. And by the way, what does that tell you about banks? To loan me money, and I think water grows on trees. So what happens to the bank making dumb loans like that? That's what we call a risky loan. This guy's an idiot. So with that, risk. There's a lot of risk, and that's why this competition is cutthroat. And so, what sets the price? And here's the thing about this is, it's supply and demand in the perfect marketplace. If people want water, and there's not very much water out there, people want this, and there's not very much, what happens to the price? It goes up dramatically. But also, there's water everywhere. What happens to the price? And supply and demand will set that. Where, heck, if I went out and sell my water, and there's water everywhere, but I'm still going to charge top dollar for this, what's going to happen to me? I'm going out of business. But what happens if I charge too little? What happens? And so that is the issue of supply and demand sets price. Did you hear what I said? Supply and demand. That is, and put in big words next to it, that's the market. The market is the interaction of supply and demand. Ideal market is totally decided by that, which, by the way, it isn't. It's much more complex, and I'll show you how we get there. But if you take an economics class, and this maybe in a business class, anybody seen this curve before? Maybe in a business class, I'll always give like a very brief little business or economics in most business classes. That's the generic supply and demand curve, even though it does kind of look like two straight lines. And its idea is just some generic product. And it works like this. Here's supply. Don't think about demand, just supply. If the price is low, they won't produce very much. But as the price goes up, they produce more. If the price goes up for something, that means whoever's making the water will produce more, or more people will enter the market and sell it. Same thing with demand. If the price is really high, they won't sell very much. As the price goes down, they sell more. Does everyone get that? So somewhere in the middle is this equilibrium. Somewhere. The right price where it's not too high, where people will buy it, not too low, so some businesses will stay in business. And the thing is, if the price goes up, more people went into the business and sell. If the price goes down, what happens to some of the businesses who went in to sell water? What's that? Yeah, they're gone. This is cutthroat. Now, what sets this? How do you know you're there? You don't. It just happens. Some kind of equilibrium. Adam Smith had a name for it. He called it the invisible hand of the market. It will guide prices up and down. Now, it's idealized. So it's not setting the price. So what he's saying is, if you give a company a monopoly, you have an artificially high price, probably artificially low wages, a number of things. So with that, the invisible hand of the market. And here's the thing. Why do you sell? Why do you go into a business? What do you want? How do you know you made money? It's called the profit margin. The profit margin is your revenues minus the cost. Now, I'll give you a little hint. Which one can a business control? Here's my hint. Cost. They can't really control revenues. Because what controls price in an idealized market? Supply and demand. So you can't really control. Oh, sure, you might want to encourage people to buy your product, but you got to look at it logically. Your competitors will probably do the same thing. And if you do advertising to convince people to buy your product, that's a cost. Now, that's revenues minus cost, and you control cost. How do you get your cost down? How do I get my cost down? By water. So my business model is to have everybody who works for me get a bucket and go get a bucket of water, and then straighten about themselves, and then figure out a way to make bottles, and then bottle it, and then find a way to seal the bottle, then I sell it. Do you see how relatively inefficient that is? What do I want to do? Adam Smith used pins. He called it division of labor in pins. When I mean pin, I mean P-I-N-S. Pins. And what we're talking about here is productivity. By division of labor, spreading the work out to different people, you can increase your productivity, aka get more output per worker. If you get a worker to produce more, won't your cost drop? Now, you know what I mean by a pin? A little steel pin, kind of ball on one end or something like that, sharp on the other end, used for sewing. You know what I'm talking about? Pin, pretty basic, right? Go home and make one for me. Tell me how easy it was to make. Could anybody in here make a pin? No, you could not. Because first off, how you know how to puddle steel? I do. I mean, that's how, you know. No, to make steel. And not only that, how to know the forge, the heat, to set it all up, to puddle steel. Incredibly difficult. And then you have to get the iron, the cadmium, the nickel, some form of carbon, all kinds of stuff to make steel, the fuel to burn it in the forge. And then, how do you make a mold? Do you even know what to make a mold out of? If you put 400-degree steel into something that won't melt, do you get the point here? How difficult it would be? Just imagine doing the whole process. From the puddling of the steel, making the mold, knowing how to take it out of the mold, knowing how to file each individual pin so they don't break, because they'll have edges on them. How difficult that would be to train one person to do all that. How expensive. How long would it take? Years. But what if you teach one person, or one person just does the puddle, one person just does making the forge, etc., etc. You see the issue with that. Division of labor. You teach one person to do something over and over again. It's cheaper, and here's the big thing. You do something over and over again, what happens? You become what? Say it again. Well, now that you might become a craftsman, even though when you come to machines, you don't have those terms anymore. You become really good at it, don't you? You produce more. How many mistakes do you make? You produce faster. And that is the key element here. Division of labor allows for faster production. So, division of labor. And this is a massive innovation. If there's a monopoly where no one's in competition for pins or whatever they might be, why innovate? Why need a better method? They're going to come buy my stuff, and I don't care. But if anyone can enter and sell, you get this kind of creativity. Eli Whitney, what was he responsible for besides a cotton gin? Do you remember?
Yeah.
What? Eli Whitney, do you remember what it was? What's that? Not Eli Whitney. It's Elias Howe. Eli Whitney was with muskets. Besides cotton gin. Interchangeable parts. You see how machines, when you get in this thing, you go from individual hands, but machines doing it, you change the world. And that's what was happening here. Now, he's talking about with everyone still doing it by hand. But now, here's the next thing. What he said was that to get this innovation, to get the best price, to find this equilibrium, we need laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means literally to lay off or hands off by the government. The government. You notice I have an N there this time. I spelled it differently in my good old government sound. Try it. It's fun to say. Government. No, try it. Government. Oh, come on. Have some feeling. What he said was, if government does not support monopolies, government was supporting monopolies then. If governments just allow individual business to form, there'll be innovation, there'll be competition, the prices will drop, better products. This is the way to go. That's what he said. Don't do things like the Tea Act. This will open up for businesses to come in a perfect world. But I think you might see an issue here. If you were one person making pins or water or whatever, one person against a business that had 5 or 6 people making the pins or 20 people making pins, who has a competitive advantage? Say it again. And so what he's talking about here is, without even realizing it, we're talking about big business. We're talking about big. Big has the advantage. And we live in a world where big controls all. Just a few companies control everything. And so, this is what he wrote about. This is 1776. The problem was the Industrial Revolution was literally just starting when he wrote this, and he died. That is Adam Smith's grave. No, Adam Smith is no longer alive. I made the pilgrimage to his grave in Edinburgh. So I had to go there to look at his grave. Then I left. Home. It was a whirlwind trip. That was when that was the same day I took that picture that I did not buy the 200-pound kit. I told you that story, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. Same day, good day. It was a fun day. And I had haggis. You even know what haggis is?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, what is it?
Lamb.
Yeah, lamb stomach stuffed with goodies.
What are the goodies?
Intestines.
Um,
Here's the best part about this. I tried it, and the waitress goes, "You know, only tourists are crazy enough to eat this." I said, "Oh, I know. No one in Scotland eats that stuff anymore." Yeah.
so, Lazarus Fair, that was, government should or should not support monopolies?
Government shouldn't support. I ran out of space. Government should not support monopolies. Because that's what he thought government was doing. So government should be hands-off. I should have been more clear on that, but I didn't feel like it. So government should not support monopolies. And so, but over the next 60 years, we have a new economic system, capitalism. And this is significantly different. It's a market system. It's a market. So what he talked about in a market. But now there are two distinct parts, classes. On one side, we have the capitalists, and they have what? The capital. Some Marx and others would call this the bourgeoisie. And so that's what all that means is middle class. And they do take the risk. But that means the risk is significantly bigger. So you have to buy the machines, but they get the profit. They get the profit. And then we have everyone else, labor. And Marx called, and others called labor the proletariat. This comes from, anybody know where proletariat comes from? Roman Republic, Rome. Lower class. And they earn wages. And this is radically different system. The two different elements, the capitalist and labor. And two things. First off, they want the same thing, the money. But who gets the profit? They do. And one more thing, which group is bigger? Yeah. Virtually everybody's in this. Virtually everybody. And since we have the same system now, I can almost guarantee that all of you will be in this. The odds are. Very few in that. And the number of these are getting smaller and smaller and smaller every year. But let's get back to this. Here's why this is such a big deal. You look at how the profit, get the wages. Okay, that's just the way the system works. What decides wages?
Supply.
Say it again.
Supply and demand.
Yes. The market decides wages. And that's what you got to get down. So the market decides wages. And this market, this would be known as the wage system. And I'll mention this one more time. The market decides wages. It's not how much is produced. It's not, well, what happens? What happens if profits go up? What happens to wages? Has no effect. Has no effect. And there's the converse, the inverse is true too. Profits go down, doesn't affect wages either. Unless they go out of business, then wages go down fast. And what else? How about hard work? If wages are set by the market in capitalism, aka right now, hard work has no effect. If you produce more, aka what's the word for output? I gave you that already. Say it again.
Production.
It's not product, close. Productivity. Your productivity goes up, what happens to your wages?
What if
Has
you
no
could get
effect.
like raises or something
Why do you get raises?
for hard work?
No.
For what then?
For,
It's a cost-benefit analysis. If you are running a business, especially a bigger business, and you got a few workers that work really hard, what are you worried about? Them leaving. So what do? Because they feel, okay, there's a shortage of people who work pretty hard, I better pay them a little bit more. It's supply and demand. Now, doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard, but it doesn't mean you get higher pay. If there's a lot of people out there, if everyone's working hard, they don't pay you more. Why? Why do companies hire workers? Why does somebody get a wage? People don't get wages because people run a business like, I feel benevolent today. I'm going to hire workers. I have some money hanging out. No, what do they hire? What are workers hired for? Because they think that additional worker will make them money. And if you don't make them money, you're gone. And that's just simply the way it is. There's no other way around that. So let's get back to this. What else? How about skill? Let's say you have a skill. You become something. Skill. Does that affect your wages? Only if that skill is what? What's that? In demand. And then if there's a surplus of people with an in-demand skill, wages can still drop. When I was your age, college graduates, there was a shortage of them. All you do is get a college degree, and your wages will go up. Doesn't matter what your degree was even in. There was just such a shortage of college graduates because people, gosh, up until the mid-1960s, virtually no one got college diplomas. Just why? What's it like today? There's significantly more college graduates. Anybody want to guess what's happening to the wages of college graduates now? They're actually not down, but they're stagnant. Now, they're higher than people who don't have college degrees, but they're not going up. It's just stagnant. And if it's stagnant and more people get a college diploma, what's going to happen? What will happen? It will begin to go down. It will. That's just supply and demand. So I remember when I first started teaching, the big deal was, it was this vague diploma. You got to get into computer science. And what has happened? Since 2010, there's been a massive glut of people in computer science. 10 years ago, it was coding. You got to get into coding. What is it now? There's a huge glut of them. Wages are actually dropping for that. Now, what does that tell you then about what you should get your diploma in? No. You better get something you want to do. Because if you're worried about the wage now, supply and demand will change that. You better get something you want to do because you have to spend the rest of your life with that. If you think about something, I'm going to make money because I think it's a demand now. It's probably already too late. I'm just telling you the way it is. In fact, the top 10 jobs will be the most demand over the next 20 years. Only 2 of them require college diplomas. Only 2.
What are they?
Trades. Yeah. Oh my God. Plumber. They're going to be such a shortage of plumbers. It's going to be a crisis in about 15 years. If you want to work any place you want to work, plumber. Wow. But other trades too. Plumber. Yeah. But let's get back to this then. So with that, you want to know what they are?
Yes.
Nurses. Which great job, and that will always be in demand. And I have nothing but respect for them, and I'm not a fan of blood, so I could never do it. And you know what else? Teachers. There's going to be a catastrophe in teachers, about the shortage of teachers. The number of people going to education school is down to about 40% of what it was, and it will be a crisis. So wages have to go up dramatically for teachers. Now, unfortunately, I'm nearing the end. But for the next generation, so let me get to this real fast. So laissez-faire capitalism meant, I know the bell's about ready to ring, but let me finish this real quick. Laissez-faire meant, in capitalism, this was not what anybody expected. Let the market decide. But there are a few issues that the market may not come up with outcomes that we like. For example, if there's a surplus of workers, what's going to happen to wages? Even if companies are making money, aka wages are stagnant now. They only just slightly gone up in the last year. yet profits are skyrocketing. That's a problem down the road, right now. Here's another big one. Okay, the capitalists make the machine, they take the risk, they get all the profit. Wait a sec, wait, do you see it? If you have forces trying to get wages down, and yet money is focusing to those who have the capital, who's going to buy the stuff? Who's going to buy the stuff? Could this slow the economy down if the workers have less and less money? And here's the last one I want to get. Ironclad rule of economics. Underline this, italicize it, put it in bold, superscript it, draw a picture, cartoon. The iron rule of economics, the economy of scale. And the scale is this. This is what it means. And I'll explain why I put risk here in a second. The bigger a company is, they have a competitive advantage. Scale. The bigger can produce more. They can produce faster. I mean, think about it. If you have to buy a bunch of machines to build something, that's a massive investment. Just imagine buying a bunch of machines to make one car. How much money you would waste. But think about buying those machines and producing 1 million. Who has the cheaper cost per car? The person making 1 million. I'll give you another example. Let's say you want to start a grocery store. Who doesn't want to start a grocery store, right? All of you thinking about that? Let's say you start that little nice grocery store. And what's going to happen to you? You have to spend all this money to build a store, to buy products, and you don't have very much money, so you have to borrow money. You can't lower your prices that much because you got costs. How are you going to compete against a bigger store? Let me throw an example out there. How are you going to compete against Walmart? Think about what Walmart can do. They buy huge bulk. Therefore, they can actually force producers to sell them less. They have a massive infrastructure to buy and sell, so they're incredibly efficient. So all their costs are lower, and they're huge. They can afford to charge less and still make more money. What happens to you? The bigger you are, the competitive advantage you have. And that's what we got to get. The bigger you are. And that is the iron rule of economics. Just a quiz.
Those three things are the things that the government controls.
These are things that, okay, if we do laws on fair, meaning no government interference, what's going to happen? And these are problems they didn't think about. All the wealth, all the profit, OT in one group, and then big. Meaning who's always going to have an advantage? Big. What happens small?
He's like eating